couple years younger than me.
What did you lose?
Well, those little screws.
Phil, watch your fingers. Slide the desk that way. I guarantee it's under one of them legs.
I would think you'd be able to see that.
Here, slide this table that way, Phil. I bet it's
This way?
under one of them legs. I bet it ain't either. I'm gonna change my plea.
Well, I can always leave one more.
Can't be lost in a contract.
I know it bounced that much. I saw it when it first hit. A little bitty tiny screw. Oh yeah, that's a good idea. A flash. Because the metal should gleam.
Yeah, but I don't have a belt on and these shorts. Ashley, spot me.
Works.
Parents moved back.
We'll look for it in a
You doing anything in your shop much out there at your house?
What's things happen? Like I said, it's just one of the kind of straight.
Trying to question.
I was being really careful about them. I even was sticking them to tape at the office so I didn't lose any.
Work on cars now.
I'll look again after the meeting.
When they get a car.
Here, give me this stuff and I'll put this stuff.
I'm at the age now where
Thank
I'm
you.
gonna work on some of my stuff, do some things I want to.
Where'd all your little screws go to?
And I don't
I'll
have
put them all in other than the one I lost.
Oh, okay.
I don't see
That's
it.
the only one I'm missing.
And I can see far off.
I was just hoping to pray that the battery I just put in there works, and it does. And I'm not getting an error message either.
Well, it started hitting me about 35 anyway.
Just wait.
Trying to
It's
see
after
it
5, we had
all
a
day, all day.
little snafu trying to get Mr. Asher's computer going. I'm gonna call the meeting to order. And the first thing I want to do is say that this is an informational meeting only. We will not be taking any action tonight on the budget. And I have asked the budget members, and we are going to set a budget meeting for next Wednesday at 5 o'clock here at the courthouse, at which time the Budget Committee will vote on the resolution recommending the budget to the full commission. All right, that being 18th. Next Wednesday will be the 18th. And is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak? Anyone signed up?
Would we be allowed to ask questions during this meeting?
Yes.
Thank you.
Hey, I don't know how many of you are familiar with the budget situation that we are in. We are looking at a substantial deficit for next year, indicating a need for a property tax increase. This is not something that has popped up on us in 1 year's time. You can go back to 2015, which was the last time revenues were raised through property tax. There have been no increases since that time. You move forward to 2020, the certified tax rate was taken that year. All the certified tax rate does is bring in the same amount of money as the year before. All right? So we still haven't increased our revenues any. Now we're in the third year of that reappraisal, and everything has caught up to us. Revenue shortfalls this year have been substantial, and I'm sure all of you know from the inflation rates that inflation has caused prices to go up exponentially. And that has created a perfect storm for us not to be able to fund the budget without some type of property tax increase. That's what we're here to try to give the commissioners and anyone else in the audience information on. The budget resolution that we'll vote on next Wednesday will go to the commission at a called meeting by the chairman, which we'll have to ask her, talk with her as to what day that she would want to do that. There are some things that you need to know. The first one is we operate under a private act. Our private act has the budget committee preparing the original budget to submit to the commission. If the commission turns that private act down, turns that resolution down, the private act says that the entire legislative body shall make the budget. It does not go back to the budget committee to be redone. In the past, not knowing this, last year being an example, it was sent back to the budget committee. But now that we are aware of the proper procedure, we have to follow that procedure. You also need to know that if it does not pass and it goes for the entire legislative body to do the budget, there are certain areas that the county legislative body cannot touch. There are only certain areas that the county body can touch in the budget other than raising the revenue to cover the budget. Anybody any members want to say anything else?
Just if it does fail and it's up to the whole legislative body, you have to balance it at that point. You either raise taxes to make up the deficit, and we will have a deficit even with this tax increase that we propose. So it has to be balanced. You either got to raise the taxes or you got to quit doing things. And when I say quit doing things, I mean like the library. Yeah, you can't just go line by line through this. You have to just cut services, like Ashley said. That means you would have to, for instance, cut the library out. You would have to cut the senior citizens plumb out if you want to try to balance the budget without a tax increase. And our highway department has a pretty big deficit that he's got in his budget. And then that would turn around and fall on us to balance too. So it's not only ours, we got to balance it all.
And let me say that the plan that we have looked at several different scenarios of things that we can do. We looked at doing the entire amount in 1 year, which we didn't feel was a plan that most people would be able to afford. So we looked at some other plans, trying to work on a 3-year plan to pull us out of that. And one of those plans involves 15-cent tax increase with using some one-time monies to cover the difference this year, and basically the same type of thing next year, which would bring us into the 3rd year would be the year of reappraisal. And that year, if the tax rate is left alone, it would cover the 3rd year plus additional revenues for moving forward. By using the certified tax rate, it costs the county, and let's see if I've got the figures here. We've got the figure on top.
Yeah.
The county general fund since 2020, when the certified tax rate was adopted, has lost revenue of $1,100,497 into the general fund. That alone would have covered any tax increase that we would have needed. We would not have had to even be talking about a tax increase had the tax rate been left alone in 2020. The schools lost $975,057. Debt service lost $1,014. Highway Department lost revenues of $67,993. Capital projects, $144,380, which makes a total of $2,288,941 of lost revenue because we dropped the tax rate back to certified rate. When the state comes in and reappraises your property, if the tax rate is $3 currently, you leave it at $3. The county does not raise your taxes. The value of your property has gone up. If the value of your property is greater, therefore you're going to pay more in taxes. The rate, if you leave the rate alone, the county's not increasing your taxes. The state has reappraised, put a greater value on your property, and if the property is greater, you're going to pay more. It's not a situation we want to be in, but we are in it, and we have to deal with it. We have to try to start now to correct things that we have let go for too many years. Do I have anything else I want to add to that?
There are certain things that we can't.
Yes.
Touch, yeah.
I'll turn this over to Ms. Brasher in just a second. I mentioned that if it does not pass, there are some things that the county legislative body cannot touch. There are some things that are only some things that they can. And I'll ask Ms. Brasher to tell which are which.
Specifically in your private act, there are two areas that cannot be touched. In your private act, section 5, there are 3 points. Number 1 and number 3 are the two that can't be touched. Number 1 is any of your debt, including interest, bond payment principal, note payment principal, anything to do with your debt. You can't touch that. You have to cover that. You have to balance that. Not actually balance it, but you have to be able to set your tax rate in order to cover it. Number 3 is and this is convoluted accounting language that is kind of technical, so I'm going to tell you what it says in this language, and then I'm going to tell you how that interprets in accounting world. It says that you have to be able to balance it on a cash basis, and that one can't be touched. And it really is not going to affect your budget. It's not going to make a difference between regular budget and cash basis budget. The only difference that anybody would ever see in that is if you had a business type fund where you had depreciation on big equipment and capital projects and that kind of thing, because depreciation has nothing to do with cash. You don't have any of that. You have no depreciation in this budget. So literally this budget has to balance, period. Cash basis and regular budgetary basis are the same number for Benton County because you don't have depreciation in there. So cash basis says you've got to be able to do that. And that literally means, going back to, it has to balance. You've got to be able to pay the bills and have the revenue coming in to pay the bills, period, in your general fund. Those two can't be touched. Number 2, that was number 1 and number 3. Number 2 is a very short sentence that can be touched. with some stipulations. It says the amounts required for the fiscal year for the expense of conducting and/or operating, basically everything. It says the departments, the divisions, the boards, the subdivisions, et cetera. So in other words, you've got to have the amounts required and appropriated for the year to conduct the business of the county. You can't say, we're just going to shut down the courthouse, in other words, because that would not be conducting the business of the county. That one, that's the one area that can be changed by the full commission. But as I said, it has stipulations. You have several different areas that have, as we've talked a lot about since I've been working with you guys, maintenance of effort. You can't go below certain numbers, for example, the sheriff. And it's not his full budget, it's total based, his total based on salaries, actual payroll, and the current number he has currently working, the current head count. Those are some of the things that you can't touch. Even the full county commission cannot touch that, because the law is, if you have a private act and there's a state law for the same kind of area, which we're talking about budgeting, you use your private act unless the state law is stricter. And if the state law is stricter, it overrides your private law. So your private law doesn't specify about the sheriff's budget and the salaries and the maintenance of effort and all that. So you have to go back to the state law on that. And the state law says the salaries, and based on total pay and on current head count employed. So those are things that even the county commission can override. The library, that's in the general fund. It's a maintenance of effort department. You can't override those maintenance of effort. And that's in the general fund. You've also got the highway department, the entire fund is a maintenance of effort department. The school general fund is the whole fund is a maintenance of effort department. So even if the county commission comes in here and wants to change everything, they still have to obey those laws, because those are stricter state laws that override your private act. So there's also some things that are more difficult for full commissions to do. And that is the flexibility of transferring money around. You can do transfers as the full commission, but they should be done not as the original budget document. They should be done as amendments. Like when someone comes in and says, I didn't use all my payroll and I want to transfer some of that money over to travel. That's a transfer. Especially if you are transferring money from one fund, not just in a department, but from one fund to another, it gets even stricter, because the comptroller's office has to do a lot of approvals on that. That's why all those need to be in the original budget document done by the budget committee, because then the comptroller's office will look at all of that, including the transfers, and either approve it or disapprove it all in one fell swoop instead of bits and pieces. I know that's a whole lot of mumbo jumbo accounting talk, but I hope maybe it sheds a little light on it. Yes, this wording of your private act, we've gone to the comptroller's office to get their interpretation of it, to make sure that we were understanding it correctly. Your county legal counsel has concurred, CTAS has concurred, and your private act literally says, once you are aware of this and you don't follow it, then you're subject to removal from office. So here we are.
Hey, Phil,
Yes.
I may have the floor just a little bit. Just to tell you, like the private act, think about 1939. Most of your counties were run by your county commissions, right? Your county executive at that time was called a county judge. They had a lot of judicial authority, so traditionally, Tennessee operated under a strong county commission, prepare the budget type of mentality. In the 1950s, they changed the county judges to become county executives, and so you began seeing the mindset on budgets begin to change. They started with the 1957 Act. And what that did is that began bringing the mayor's office into the budgetary process. I don't know who all attended, you know, when we were talking about the centralized purchasing payroll. Remember when we had all those discussions and you had your 1957 Act, 1981 Act, 1983 Act, and so we've had multiple changes to state private acts over the course of 50, 60 years. I'm just saying that right now, the onus is on the county commission. This becomes a political element. I blame y'all for the tax increase, right? What happened in the 1950s was the mayors began getting more involved in the budgets. This isn't going to happen on this budget, but I think we actually need to begin looking at changing our private act. Once this is done, it's behind us, the elections are over, I would encourage us to really embrace this and begin looking at that 1957 Act or the 1983 Act or even the 1993 Act, I think was the last one that really pertained to this. It brings the mayor's office, who are more qualified now with administrative expertise. It allows the budget committee to pretty much say, Mayor, it's your office, you're the CFO. You prepare the budget, we'll approve it. So any changes goes back to the mayor's office and we do all the work, and honestly, it probably saves us a lot of time, effort, pain, political blame, all that type of stuff. But right now, any tax increase is totally on y'all's shoulder, right? That's the 1939 Act. The budget committees have accepted that, and the county commission. I'm just saying this is an excellent opportunity now to say we're living in the dark ages, and we need to kind of advance ourselves, and I would very much recommend that we get rid of this private act and move on into a more modernized way of preparing our budget. So just to give you a little history on how that.
That's a discussion for another time. That's not a discussion for us tonight. We are trying to provide information on the situation that we are in now and how we can best address that situation to move forward and get to a point where we don't have huge deficits.
I totally agree. Like I said,
My recommendation would be, when the next reappraisal comes up, we do not even entertain the idea of dropping the tax rate to the certified rate. It has created not by itself, I don't want to say it's all that. There are several factors involved in that. That one is a huge factor in why we're in this situation today. Had we not had the inflation rates that we have and the huge drop in revenues this year, we still would be behind the 8 ball, but we would not be in such a bad situation as we are now. Yeah. Actually, you have anything?
Yeah. Just to let you guys know, this is, like the chairman had made the comment, this is not just over the course of 1 year. The state started recommending that counties slowly do property tax increases by just a few pennies or a nickel every year back in 1990. Benton County does not do that. I myself, I've been here for almost 10 years, and I have suggested for at least the past 6 years that I know to every budget committee that I've worked with, every county mayor that I've worked with, and every county commission that we need to do a property tax increase during the budget process. Every year I get told the same excuses. We can't, it's an election year, or we can't, nobody will pass the budget. No, let's just try to maneuver money from here and there and try and make it work. The point is to try and grow your county. And when you continue to pull money from here and there to just try and balance a budget, what do you expect? And that's where I mean, and they'll all tell you, I have lectured them like crazy this year to the point they don't want to hear me talk anymore. Every year they have kicked the can down the road. For 6 years, they have kicked the can down the road. Last year, hey, let's go back to the drawing board and let's inflate revenues because they're just numbers on paper, right? No, because if you don't pull in that revenue and your expenditures come in very high due to a lot of inflation, your revenues come in lower, where do you think you make that difference up from? So the thing is whether or not I'm ever here to continue working with Benton County for the next 20, 30 years or just the next year, I beg every person in this room, if you are going to continue to be involved as a county commissioner or an office holder, please take the budget process serious. Look at the financials. You come in here once a month and you look at resolutions and you vote on just the resolutions that month. But during a budget process, how many times have we met this year?
A lot.
I mean, 8 times just in the month of April. And we have had 2, maybe 3 commissioners out of 18, other than your committee members here, to actually be present, to ask questions, to learn. And then it's like, okay, none of you are involved, but now it's voting time on the budget we've worked very hard to propose, and you get to say yay or nay. And every one of you saying, no, I don't want a property tax increase, I'm just gonna vote no for it. But you have no idea the financial position we're in. You don't know where we have been going year after year, or how hard we've worked to try and come up with the best budget proposal possible. My thing is I have sat here and I've tried to be heard for a minimum of 6 years about getting a property tax increase. Nobody wants it, but it's not fair to your citizens and your residents to throw on a 60-cent property tax increase in 1 year. I think that is a shame to say, okay, hey, now we're broke and we really need to put on a 60-cent property tax increase instead of doing 3 cents or 5 cents, small increments every year. It would be more manageable, especially for those who are on a limited income, you know, instead of being hit with a 60-cent property tax increase. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. It has not just been a 1-year thing. I have literally been having this conversation to the point that I'm done having it. And this is the last bill you guys will ever hear from me about our financial situation and needing a property tax increase. Because as they all know, I've been very frustrated with it over the last several years. And if Benton County doesn't want to fix their finances in order to grow and move forward, that is all on you as a commission. And when your county doesn't grow, your county doesn't improve, or your economics are going down, then that's on you guys, because you guys are the ones that make the decision.
Stevens, you have something?
Just to kind of echo what Mr. Travis was saying, even back in 2004, when we were going to these state conventions every year, every other county that was there and was present and had its representatives there were like, how are you guys getting by without raising property taxes in small increments every year? She's not wrong in what she's saying.
They pulled from the hospital money for many years.
A lot of folks are forgetting that, and that's yes, it was.
Yeah.
It was until that source is reduced
Okay.
quite a bit. But she's not wrong. I mean, I've been hearing that as well, all the way from 2004 to 2010.
I don't disagree with her at all. Darryl, do you have something?
I just wanted to, Ms. Brasher's got the numbers. If this fails and it becomes all of our responsibility to pass this budget with the budget we have here, and I'm gonna tell you, most of this budget is maintenance of effort. We cut everybody
We did.
to just what we had to give them. If it fails and you have to vote on it to balance the budget without doing away with things, you're talking 81 cents.
And to be honest, some of the cuts that we made, I mean, like we
It
cut,
hurt.
Randy Shannon cut the mayor's budget $30,000. I even told him, I said, I don't even think that's possible. Honestly, Randy, I'm like, we may have to come back and ask for more money. I mean, you know, we did. We cut every department. We
The
cut.
school is maintenance of effort. The sheriff's department is maintenance of effort. You know, we got all we could get without closing stuff.
We try to make it work the best we can.
To give you an idea of the revenue drops, just this year alone, the revenue from investments dropped about $120,000. Revenue from the prisoner boarding at the jail dropped $200,000. So that'll give you a
And
couple
that wasn't their
ideas.
fault.
Huh?
That was not their fault.
No, I'm not saying it's their fault, but I'm
The
telling you,
state
this is
wasn't giving them
where,
the prisoners.
Yeah.
this is where drops in revenue have happened this past year. Estimated revenues from TVA was about $300,000 short, I believe. Then you had revenue lost from the banking excise tax. Banks aren't loaning any money. They don't loan any money. We don't get excise tax from them. It dropped probably, Ms. Bradshaw, about 150,000, in the north.
It's 130,000 less than what we budgeted.
130,000 less. That'll give you an idea of just a few areas where we have lost a lot of revenue. But the expenses have not dropped. They have increased and increased and increased and will continue to increase into next year. So we're facing a very difficult time. Let me get, Rochelle had her hand up first.
Okay, you were saying about commissioners not attending budget meetings during the budget process. If the commissioners knew when the meetings were, we would attend more.
They're advertised.
That's all we
Okay,
can
they're
do.
in.
I mean, we put them in the paper, they're on the social media, they are on the county website. I can't take time out to call each and every one of you, but they are advertised. I put them on social media, on the county website, correct?
Okay,
Social
so then
media,
we
county
need-
website,
we need to
and
start-
newspapers.
then
And even
start-
sometimes posted on the courthouse doors.
Yeah, they're on the door.
Like, I mean, you know,
So basically, okay, that's fine, it's our responsibility once the budget cycle begins to look on the website and get those meeting dates. Now, I'm not pointing fingers, but I have some questions because I'm really trying to wrap my head around this, and I'm sure a lot of us are here. So I just have a few questions about how certain things happen so that I can better understand why this happened. Now, you answered part of it by saying that you have been recommending for years.
Years.
These budget increases.
Years.
Has Lori Brasher also been recommending these small property tax increases?
Absolutely.
Okay. Now,
so did Steve Bates.
I'm on the insurance committee. Okay, the insurance committee evaluates all the different health plans and benefits for the employees. The insurance committee looks through it, asks questions, researches, and then we vote on what we feel is the best option for both the county and employees, and we bring it to the full commission for their approval. The full commission can either approve or disapprove, sending us back to look at it more. So the full commission is depending on the insurance committee to have done the work.
Just like they're dependent on the budget committee to give them a proposed
Right.
budget, yes.
Now, I've heard a lot of times that no commissioner would be for a property tax increase. I don't recall ever being asked that question. In the 4 years I've been here, I don't believe there's ever a budget that came up and said, hey, how would you guys support a small property tax increase? Because I probably would have said, yeah, I would. And I don't know about other commissioners. So if we're paying money for experts to sit with the budget committee and make recommendations, why are we not listening to those experts? And I'm not putting it all on that. I mean, I can see where a perfect storm did through. But paying for the expertise of both Lori Brasher and Ashley and then ignoring their advice and not even letting the rest of the commissioners know that they advised this, but we decided it probably wouldn't go through, I feel led to this. And again, I am not pointing fingers. I wouldn't want your job. I understand and appreciate the burden you feel to keep the taxpayers happy and to keep the county business going. I just wish that, you know, I'm not a financial expert.
And it hasn't just been this committee either. You know, it's been previous
Right,
committees
and
as
And
well.
the full commission
Like,
has
you know.
known about this, I know, for the last 6 years that I've been here.
I've not known about this. I knew we passed a certified tax rate. and I
Then
thought
you
that
haven't looked
was-
at our budget, because right in the back, it plainly says, you know, what we're bringing in for revenues and what we're paying out, and it has never been the same. Never, since I've been here.
Okay, then
We-
that's on us for not understanding what we were reading about.
We brought a budget last year that would not have kept us from having a shortfall this year However, it would have been significantly less. The commission voted it down. Us not knowing, the private act went back to budget again.
Instead of putting it under full commission like you
Yeah,
said.
we did not know that. Therefore, we went back to budget.
Right, you can't do what you don't know
And
about.
the revenues estimates were increased. Some money was moved to cover some things, but revenue estimates were increased. And a couple of those being the TVA and the bank excise tax that did not come in as we had expected or hoped that they would. So that led us to an extra problem this year. But it's not that we haven't heard, and as they say, they have been telling us we need to do this. But when you go out and you talk to the commissioners just in general, and you hear people say, I will not vote for a tax increase. I promised when I ran for election, I would not vote for a tax increase. That sort of tells me that if you're proposing a tax increase, it's going to get voted down.
And
But-
I hear exactly what you're saying, and I believe what you put together, when we look at it, would probably be the only option. And this gives us a chance to be able to explain to our constituents what has to happen, but we have no choice about it.
It's come down to that point where we don't have another option. There is going to have to be a property tax increase. If you do not start increasing your property taxes, all you're doing is putting a Band-Aid on a bleeding situation that's not going to do anything but slow it for a slower time, and it's going to grow and get worse. Kenneth, you have something you want to say?
I've been to all meeting dates. If you'll go to the first one, I'll tell you when the next one's scheduled. We'll be there. We had 3 options this year. Option 3 didn't raise property taxes. Still making employment too.
There was an option in which there would not be a property tax increase this year. However, it would wipe out every bit of, I hate to use the word reserve because I will get in trouble.
I won't slap you
It
today.
would wipe out absolutely every penny of reserve that we had.
And I
Now-
think it would be extremely foolish.
Fiscally
What would happen?
irresponsible.
Right.
What would happen in that situation, next year, we would start out in the same hole we're in now,
With no.
with higher
Plus-
property taxes
yeah.
needed and absolutely no reserve for anything. It was put on the table because it was an option. It was never seriously considered, and I believe I even made the comment that this is not something that I'm in favor of, but when I was trying to develop something to get us out of this situation, I tried to put several options out there, and that was an option that was put on the table. I do not recommend it. I'm sorry.
Where was the money coming from?
Money was coming from, out of debt service.
And
And it would be 0 if we done that next year.
It would be essentially that. I don't know that it would actually go to 0, but it would be, you would not have funds above what are now required by the comptroller to be kept other than a small amount.
you have to
That
keep
was
us,
going to-
you have to keep a certain amount in your debt service. And what he's calling as reserves is anything in excess to that. It would be.
Yeah, I don't have any figure in front of me, but it would pretty much wipe out the debt service. You would have maybe a small amount plus whatever went in to the debt service this year from sales tax, but don't know how many of you are keeping up with it, but there's inflation out there. People are not spending money like they were, and I'll cite Walmart where I work. I do not see the traffic. I do see numbers down, and when you see Walmart starting cutting hours of employees, you can be sure that they are forecasting for lower figures.
We even just got an email today from US Bank on an increase in our administrative fees and registrar fees on some of our debt payments. So, you know, I mean, everything is slowly starting to increase. Whether it's waste tire disposal, now they charge travel fee, or your debt service administrative fees are increasing.
County
Everything, your gasoline, it doesn't matter, everything
Roseanne,
is
I'm
increasing.
sorry, I passed over you, and let me come back to you, I apologize.
Okay, when you were talking about loss of revenues next year that we see coming, something that I just learned a few days ago, and I don't know if you're aware of it yet, is there was a bill passed through legislation concerning the general sessions office and the circuit court. Before, when someone went to court and they were found guilty and they had to pay restitution to someone or somebody, before, the court costs and the court fines and all that came out of that money, out of their money first. Restitution was paid out last. So we were getting all the court costs and court fines and all that paid to the clerk's office, and then that was being turned over to the general fund. Now the law's been changed, restitution comes out first. So anybody that is charged through court, when they go in to pay the court costs and fines, the restitution comes out at money first. So we're gonna see a delay in the money coming out of office.
And that's just for the people that pays the restitution.
Yeah.
Anyone
There's
else,
a little change, it's something we'll see probably coming.
anyone else that hasn't spoken yet, have anything that they would like to bring up?
I would like to thank you guys for, you know, explaining and making it easier for us to understand how this happened. And, I mean, honestly, I don't envy you the job you've had to do to come up with this.
Anybody else on the committee have anything?
Just for everybody to have information, and I don't remember the number specifically, wasn't it the actual cost that it's gonna be for the person, something like $50 per 100,000 of property tax? Is that?
That sounds correct on the 15 cents.
It was
15 cents based on what, 100, property value of 150?
100,000.
Yeah, it was something like that.
150,000.
It was roughly that, I don't remember the exact amount.
If your
$150,000
property value is $100,000, a 15-cent tax increase would be roughly, and this is not exact, $50 per 100,000. So if you've got a $200,000 value on your property, you would see $100 tax increase over the year.
Well, that's not too horrible.
And you can, of course, pay that monthly, you can pay it quarterly, you can pay it yearly.
Weekly.
The trustee is
Weekly, yeah.
pretty agreeable on how to pay it.
You can pay it weekly,
Yeah.
they'll take it any way you can give it.
Cherry.
Question, Ashley, can we not just get forwarded this, just like everything else, when the meetings are?
I can try, Terry, but I don't think you understand what all I have to remember and keep up with when it comes to budget meetings and how often they are. In fact, I think that would be a great responsibility to put on whoever your budget committee chairman is, instead of me. No offense to you, it may be someone else different come September, but I'm just saying, that would be a great thing for the chairman of the committee to do. The chairman can notify fellow commissioners of when their meetings are gonna be. To ask that of me, I got too much already that I keep up with. You know, I just had someone today, hey, whenever you email out to the county officials, can you copy me on that? I can't remember to copy everybody and email everybody. That's why I make sure that they get advertised like they need to be by law,
And
you
it
know?
is on us to check.
It is, I'm sorry. Or be in attendance for the first one, you'll know when the next meeting and the next meeting and the next meeting will be.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we
Call a
set,
member.
Or call the office.
yeah,
call and ask.
we set multiple meetings at the very first meeting, and then as we got closer to the end of those meetings, we set multiple meetings again so that they were try to help get them known in advance. But as I say, tonight, we have decided, to be sure everybody understands, next Wednesday at 5 o'clock, which is, next Wednesday is the 18th? 18th, we are having a meeting, at which time we will have to approve the school's budget, and then we will also have to approve the resolution for the budget to go to the full commission. And if you see any of your fellow commissioners, urge them to be here.
Hey, Phil, Ms. Brasher's got some extra copies. There's 3 here.
Okay?
If any commissioner wants some, she said y'all could,
If
welcome to them.
any of you need a budget, we have some
Is
extra.
that what we're going to be voting on?
Yes.
Yes, that should, Mr. Asher, that has all of our.
Unless y'all make changes by
Okay,
next
unless there are
week.
changes
Unless
made
there's
next week.
changes made.
that-
But it gives us an idea.
Yeah, that will be what we will be recommending.
Yeah, if they decide to change something next week at their vote, then it'll be a change.
Michelle, Michelle. Okay, does anyone else have anything they wish to say before we adjourn? If nothing else, I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
Got a second. We're adjourned. So next Tuesday, next Wednesday.
Wednesday,
At 5 o'clock.
18th.
But there's a commission meeting Monday.
Yes. Oversight
That's your
committee-
regular meeting, right?
Right.
Oversight committee meeting Tuesday.
Yeah, oversight committee meeting
seconded, right?
Tuesday.
I don't have anything going on either.